Former Major League Baseball player Dick Allen once famously exclaimed, "If a horse won't eat it, I don't want to play on it." His statement, as well as many others that opposed artificial turf, came about in the mid-1990s when natural grass began to be replaced by this plastic grass for efficiency purposes. There is a large amount of controversy towards the concept of artificial turf fields, especially compared to natural grass ones. The implementation of crumb rubber has been thoroughly questioned because it possibly contains harmful carcinogens. Furthermore, many believe artificial turf causes athletes to sustain more injuries than they would from playing on natural grass. On the other hand, many disagree with both of these statements and think artificial turf is harmless towards athletes. Countless studies have been done that support both sides of the issue in differing ways, but there is not enough research to guarantee that artificial turf is 100% safe. While the implementation of artificial turf is appealing for efficiency, its crumb rubber foundation is detrimental to the physical well-being of the athletes that play on it. The first way crumb rubber is detrimental towards players is because it leads to injuries. Because of its crumb rubber base, there is an increased amount of injuries that are sustained while playing sports on artificial turf. Laird Harrison states that there are many studies that validate this. For example, an Icelandic study showed that more injuries occurred on artificial grass than on grass or gravel. There is even an injury named after turf. Known as turf toe, it is a sprain to the athlete's big toe. According to athletic trainer Sally Noble, 45% of two NFL teams obtained turf toe and 83% reported this injury while playing on artificial turf. Turf toe, like most other injuries, presumably occurs because of the composition of the artificial turf. It is much stiffer than natural grass, and it causes greater traction. So, there is an increase in lower extremity injuries because the stiff ground does not give as easily as grass does when the athlete's foot hits the ground. Athletic trainer for U.S. Soccer Federation, Justin Shanghal, explains that we know, according to a multitude of studies, that the greater the traction, the higher the rate of injury. Artificial turf has greater traction compared to grass, and it is confirmed that the greater the traction, the higher the injury. Therefore, it can be concluded that artificial turf causes athletes to sustain more short-term and long-term injuries than natural grass does. The second way crumb rubber is detrimental towards players is because there is not much information on the material itself. Athletes should not be allowed to play on a material that is under-researched yet deemed as toxic. While it has not been thoroughly studied, in a 2007 report studying synthetic turf, Luz Claudio concluded that 49 chemicals could be released from tire crumbs, which is crumb rubber. Due to these harmful chemicals, Patty Wood, Executive Director of Grassroots Environmental Education, argues that this crumb rubber is a material that legally cannot be disposed of in landfills or ocean dumps because of its toxicity. Why on earth should we let our children play on it? If it is illegal to discard crumb rubber in an area where trash is meant to go, then how can it be legal for athletes, let alone children, to be in frequent contact with it? When players participate in athletics on artificial turf, the crumb rubber material goes everywhere. Running, sliding, and falling on it all results in the millions of tire pieces flying in the air and landing on players. It stays on clothes and in bags for months. Even washing machines are not guaranteed to remove it. It can also be assumed that for children, exposure will most likely occur by ingestion through hand-to-mouth contact. Athletes have probably inhaled these tire bits at some point during a game without even knowing it, so who knows how the 49 chemicals within it are affecting their bodies. The third way crumb rubber is detrimental towards players is because it may lead to cancer. By playing on crumb rubber, the players are exposed to its toxicity. According to Wells, 18-year-old goalkeeper Louis McGuire and his dad believe that may be the reason he has Hodgkin's lymphoma. At first, they did not think much of it. However, after he was treated and returned to playing soccer on artificial turf, his illness relapsed, which was very, very rare for Hodgkin's. Lewis's father explained that when the crumb rubber crumbs are breathed in, ingested, or enter the body through the nose, ears, eyes, or mouth, The tiny particles can get into the digestive and respiratory tracts. These particles are minute, sharp, and embed very easily. We believe that this is the reason Lewis now has soft tumors in his spleen, lungs, neck, and back. Additionally, after visiting a goalkeeper in the hospital and being told that the chemotherapy ward has seen 4 goalkeepers in the last week alone, coach of the University of Washington women's soccer team, Amy Griffin, did some research. She ended up compiling a list of 38 soccer players she found who had been diagnosed with cancer, and 34 of them were goalies. There are many others who believe there is a connection between artificial turf and cancer, and it makes sense why they think so. Crumb rubber is confirmed as containing chemicals that are considered toxic, and goalkeepers, compared to other athletes, spend more of their time on the ground during games. This causes them higher amounts of exposure to the crumb rubber and the chemicals within it. While it is not yet verified, the theory that contact with artificial turf leads to cancer is a significant and realistic idea that must be addressed. For these 3 reasons, artificial turf is unsafe for athletes to play on. In conclusion, artificial turf is dangerous towards players because they can sustain more injuries than on grass, it contains toxic chemicals that are unhealthy for humans, and it could lead to cancer. The implementation of artificial turf deeply connects with society's view that everything has to be done in the most efficient way possible. This relates because it is easier to install a turf field that requires less maintenance and drains well than it is to constantly take care of natural grass. Artificial turf is becoming more prevalent as a field implementation, but the health risks athletes face on these fields are not being thoroughly studied, let alone considered. The possibility that crumb rubber relates to cancer is significant because cancer is one thing scientists cannot seem to figure out. Therefore, this potential connection is essential to not only cancer science, but to the well-being of humans, more particularly athletes, worldwide.